Hey there, and welcome to the Legacy of Tyr podcast, episode 2. I'm your host, Jordan Shepard. And tonight with me we have Chaz Overby again and Carrie Pierce.
Carrie Pierce.
Carrie Pierce,
Hello.
excuse me. Yeah, there we go.
That stinking Carrie Price.
Carrie Price, yeah. Victor Price.
Hijacking the podcast.
Oh, dang.
So what do we got on the agenda tonight, boys?
Alrighty.
And hello, everybody.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Alrighty, so tonight we're going to cover a lot of various topics. We got some stuff that's, current event. We got a few other topics. I'd like to throw out there, we're going to be at Pagan Pride Day in Norfolk coming up here soon. Yeah, September 22nd, so 2 Saturdays from now. Be 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yes, I encourage everybody to at least go out and check out our table. I'm not sure what absolutely everything that's going to be on the table. There was some talk about some merchandise, but there's some pamphlets and stuff. If anything, just, come meet us and ask questions about who we are, what we do, and get to know us, know our faces. And definitely come on out to the pub moots and stuff as well if you're interested.
Yeah,
it's open to everybody.
Yeah, so we'll be there. We'll have a don't we have a booth there?
Yeah, there is going to be a booth there.
Okay, yeah. Sweet. Yeah, we will have a booth there. And that'll take us right on to our next topic of sacrifice. I think it's a big topic currently with all of the current events going on, Nike and all that stuff. And thought we'd talk about sacrifice and how it relates to the heathen community and just the aspects of it in heathenry.
That's a very good topic. I mean, sacrifice is a pretty big thing throughout our faith. I mean, you have Odin, who hung from the tree, sacrificed his eye for wisdom, right? And then you have Tyr, who sacrificed his oath hand to bind the Fenrir wolf, basically, stepping up and doing, something for the good of everybody, to save everybody. And that's an important theme. I mean, even in military culture, Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's different kinds of sacrifice. Absolutely. It's giving up something to either obtain something or to accomplish something. It could be a gift for a gift too. I mean, if you're into sacrificing something to the gods, or for a cause, but it's gift for a gift. I mean, am I right?
Yeah, that's definitely what sacrifice really is. It's I feel like it's a really big aspect in heathenry since it's so influential, and like there's also the historic side of sacrifice too, where they would sacrifice living things to the gods as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're not the only culture that does it or has done it. I mean, it's been throughout ages worldwide.
Yeah, it's like every religion at some point had pretty much something sacrificed.
There was most recently it was what's her name is Azalea Banks. Is that her name? Who is sacrificing chickens in a closet. I mean, she was into some sort of Santeria or voodoo or some sort of practice where sacrificing said chickens, part of her religious culture for success, wealth, whatever it is she was after. I mean, and that that's another thing too. I mean, it's in her culture, and I've read about it in different other cultures as well.
Yeah, I think animal sacrifice is kind of frowned upon today, but it was pretty big back in the day and accepted. I honestly don't think it's that much of a problem, especially since in most cultures the animal gets used like it would anyway. So I mean, I don't see how.
I just think people misunderstand it. I really do. Whatever you do with what you're sacrificing, I think matters.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, like, if we're gonna, like, for example, let's say we're gonna bloat it, like a cow or goat or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, like, I would like to see that, the meat being used to feed our tribe. I mean, it's no different than,
If you're gonna kill
halal
it and
or,
butcher it anyway. Yeah.
yeah, it's no different than halal or other forms of holy butchering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I personally don't have a problem in that aspect.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I don't see an issue with it. Like as long as the animal is killed with a with respect, and they're not harmed during the whole process. They don't feel any pain or whatever. And I don't see an issue in it. I mean, if you look at like how the meat industry does things, then I mean, I'm pretty sure one little pig or something like that, if you do it properly, isn't going to be too big of an issue. You know what I'm saying? So
I just think it goes
no.
into the stigma of a pagan animal sacrifice. I mean, it was a thing back in biblical times too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the Christians definitely have a history of such things. But I think
Oh,
the modern
definitely.
day stigma, like, oh, they're a bunch of Satanists. They're sacrificing cats and goats and dogs and whatever. I think that stigma of the old satanic panic is still
Satanic
rampant
panic.
to some degree, but I've seen a resurgence in ancient religions here lately.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um,
Yeah.
there was an article about the Latin American community, going back to their roots,
Hmm.
you know, and stuff like that, and I believe that some practices do sacrifice animals, in some, not all, in some circumstances. I mean, I'm not trying to talk out of my butt here. I mean, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
going by things that I've read and seen and whatever. I'm not really sure if the attitude towards such things has changed. I mean, I'm sure PETA would be having a heart attack if they were listening to this conversation right
Oh,
now.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
um, but I just think it's the purpose and, you people that have created optics in that regard in the
Mm-hmm.
past and the present for such things. I mean, of course, anybody can, you know, pick a random story out of the news. Well, these people were Satanists and they were torturing animals and some sort
Sure.
of ritual, whatever. But that, even in Satanism, I mean, that's not really something that's looked upon positively. So there's always going to be that screwed up, individual out there that's doing stuff to make everybody look bad versus people who are actually putting some spiritual purpose behind what they're doing. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most
Makes sense.
definitely.
Yeah. Talking about articles, and people like going to back to their like ancestral religions and stuff. I read an article about there's a lot of Russian special forces like Spetsnaz and stuff that are going back to Slavic paganism as a form of motivating themselves, other than the Russian Orthodox Church. And the Russian Orthodox Church put out this like widespread like message saying how scared and feared that they were losing the soldiers or whatever to their ancient religions or whatever.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's really neat to see a resurgence in Russia as well,
Mm-hmm.
even though they don't have
Yeah.
as quite as much religious freedom.
Right.
Because I know the Orthodox Church has a lot of pull over there, so that's really good
Mm-hmm.
to see them coming back out.
Yep. Just takes time.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys see the article about the man in the army that decided to grow a beard for Thor and
Oh man.
somehow got it past regulation? Because I honestly, out of all the books I've read and the research, I've never really seen too much about that. I mean, I've seen in some cases where people would grow beards like in dedication to, but no requirements of growing a beard. So I want to know what he pulled to really get that through. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, okay. Well, while I'm getting the Army Times article up about it, I'll just put my little 2 cents into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't see an issue with it. Like, they just passed, at least the Navy, just passed a new hair. I'm drawing a blank. New hair instruction on for women, and they can
Mm-hmm.
wear ponytails,
Yeah.
and they can wear like dreadlocks and like all kinds of stuff. Like
Yeah, they're doing it
it's
the whole
just like
9 yards
they
with
were
it.
allowed like 5 or 6 different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and a lot of people like to argue like, well, gas mask or SCBAs and stuff like that, like you won't
Mm-hmm.
get a good seal. That's kind of a lie, because even the Navy regulation on a beard for people with no shaved shit is 2 inches of beard, because that is the recommended for the SCBA and the gas mask, because it'll still have a seal at 2 inches. And then like, yeah, there's no anything saying that we have to have a beard, but there isn't no way saying that we have to do anything a certain way at
That's
all.
true.
Like our books, and I'm about to like, I might pull some strings here, and might make some people mad, but most of our books are written by Christians. So
Very true.
like, how much is our myths do we actually know? Like how many, you know what I'm saying? Like we don't know how like the old Germanic tribes used to do stuff and things of that nature. So like I have the article pulled up. I can read a little bit about it if y'all want me to.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So there's just one part I wanna put, and it basically sums up everything that I said. I'm not going to read names or anything like that. If you want to see it, then you can just pull up Army Times, the whole scenario or whatever. But so the it was a police brigade, so it was a MP that put in for this or whatever. Anyway, a colonel said this to him: "I grant your accommodation subject to the standards and limitations described below." Blah 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 blah. In observance of your heathen Norse pagan faith, you may wear a beard in accordance with Army uniform and grooming standards for soldiers with approved religious accommodations. And then it goes down to saying there is no religious requirement for beards and heathenry. Sheiks are allowed to wear beards and turbans because it's actually is a religious requirement of their faith that they do so. Then it keeps going down that it's all proper procedures. It's basically stating that it's not a religious requirement, but it's an accepted cultural. It's accepted culturally, because like if you look in the past, name a time era before 1970s that beards weren't worn by warriors. Like
That's very
and
true,
people want
actually.
to pull like, I mean, Spartans wore them, Athenians wore them, Romans wore them, freaking the Vikings or the Viking, or everyone wore them. It was masculinity. That's what it showed. It showed how masculine someone was as a warrior, being out here. You could grow beard, and it not only that, but like there's a reason why like the Germanic tribes they would put so many braids in their long beard, because when you have a hair and a group of hairs and you twist it, it becomes really strong and it's hard to cut through. So if you go down and you grab someone by the head of the hair, because I know that's an argument, saying for long hairs, like someone can grab your hair, put your head back, and cut your neck, slit your throat or whatever. But if you have a beard full of, braids, then that's something else that they have to do. They have to free another hand. So like it's culturally accepted. It's not a religious requirement, but we don't have any religious requirements. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah, that's true.
that's my 2 cents on it.
That's actually super interesting then, because I thought he passed it as a religious requirement, and I was unaware that it was culturally accepted. That
Well, the propaganda behind it was kind of being pushed as a religious requirement without any real in-depth explanation. I mean, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm sitting here growing my beard out. No, I mean, I really have no opinion. I'm a woman, but if it's like more of a cultural thing, I can see that. If it's like a requirement thing, like that's what I thought they were trying to push the narrative on, and now I like the other explanation better on the cultural thing. Um, I think a lot of people are, and I'm probably going to make some enemies saying this, but I think a lot of people who are against it and have been griping about it, I think a lot of them are just mad because they couldn't do it while they were in the service.
That's very true.
Uh,
I know I'm
Yeah.
jealous.
and it's because the way I was looking at it, religious requirement, no. Um, and I could see the cultural aspect. I mean, and at the same time, it's like back in the days of the ancestors, like a lot of them were barely bathing, let alone shaving their beards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So I mean, and yeah, I could see it's like represents masculinity and warrior culture and stuff like that. But yeah, I searched and searched and I could not find anything that says it's a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm a woman, so really, like, that really wouldn't be
Your
my fight
forte.
to fight. It would be my fight to fight. You
That's true.
know, I mean, be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop shaving my legs. Well, okay,
You're gonna start braiding that as well.
there you go. I'll be a werewolf for Halloween.
I wonder if I can start growing a beard now. I'm gonna run that past my command and see how it goes. But
well, good luck. Good
yeah,
luck
right.
with that, because
Right.
we're like the Navy's one of the only branches that still doesn't recognize heathenry, and also true. So.
That's true.
Really?
Why? Yeah, they
Yeah.
do not. Like, I was trying to get it on my dog tags, and the closest thing I could get was some sort of like spiritual practitioner or some weird shit like that.
Well, what's really
Yeah.
interesting is when I was in the Air Force, like, so 2005, when I reported to my new unit, like, it was my last unit I was in, they asked me, well, what do you want for, your faith? And they're willing to put anything on there.
That's pretty neat. I know the Air Force is
Yeah.
pretty Christian oriented.
They've really chilled the F out.
That's good to hear.
Well, and I said this the last podcast, was like, I started the first, Wiccan study group at Langley Air Force Base ever
Hmm.
back in like 99, 2000. And the freak out over it was just absolutely astounding. I mean, we had Pat Robertson's people protesting outside the gate.
Oh boy.
Because the Air Force, the base ran a big article, and I think the Air Force Times actually ran a follow-up article to piggyback on that. And it was a big thing. I mean, it was like, Air Combat Command, witches, oh my God. Um, and I've received my dose of nastiness from people. Um, but it's like as the years progressed, as the months went by, everybody chilled out.
I mean, you can only be outraged for so long over something like that.
Yeah,
And people are
and I
gonna do
mean,
what they
more
want.
pagan, well, more Wiccan groups started popping up, more Wiccans started popping up, more pagans started popping up. I know the push for Asatru was still kind of, going through that uphill battle, but like, I actually, when I found myself back in Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
started talking to some of the local Wiccans, and I discovered that there was a group at Langley again. I'm like, oh, they actually still had some of the old books I had back then still there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that people donated. And everything has changed. It's like everybody is more accommodating.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's chill. Nobody's being a hater. But it's interesting how things happen as soon as something happens at the Air Force Academy.
What happened to the Air Force
And
Academy?
Yep.
oh, there was like, it was years ago. It was before I got out. They did this big thing on religious accommodation because something happened where these Wiccan cadets were being bullied at the academy or something like that. And they just a big stink was made about it, and then they actually had people from the Department of Defense kind of go around and talk to different religious representatives at every base and talk about religious accommodation. They even went into like prayers being said at like commanders calls and stuff like that. Like it was pretty big. And I knew that there was some headway made before I got out in '07. But yeah, by then people have kind of just chilled out.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, that's good.
hmm So I hope, because I've been out for a good minute, like that the attitude towards heathenry is pretty chill. I know there's the whole racism stigma attached to our faith because people don't understand folkish heathenry. And I know there's some entities out there that kind of abuse that whole concept of folkish heathenry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then there's others that even the word folkish heathenry, it makes you literally Hitler. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what your rationale is. So I don't know what the current climate is, to be honest with you. I mean, what are your guys' insight on that?
I mean, I think currently it's been pretty like the client for heathenry's been pretty good, but like it's definitely like even if you just Google it, like acid true heathenry, it like in the top 3 or 4 things that you see, there's always going to be something about how like racism is taking over heathenry. But I mean like overall, I really think like that's calmed down. Like here recently, definitely in the past few months, it's calmed down, and it's starting to look like really good. I mean, in military standpoint, I mean it's definitely like I've never been like told anything to where it's like, oh well, you need to not practice that because it's bad, or like anyone that's just trying to hide heathenry. It's like everyone's pretty open about it in the Navy as well, but it's just not a recognized religion yet for some reason. Really not sure why.
Yeah.
I mean, like
That's
Yeah.
Chaz was
crazy.
talking about earlier, they think there's only like 20,000 heathens in America or some insanely low number.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't think the Navy realizes how big the religion has gotten, and maybe there's just not enough a big enough voice yet in the Navy to get it recognized, which I'm sure soon it will be if we make a push for it, which I think should happen soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these article titles. Can Asatru be rescued from the
Yeah,
racists?
that's what I'm saying. If you type in Astro top three,
Like, oh
definitely there's
my
always going to be an article like that.
god.
Never
It's
never
like
ceases.
it's like, the topic has it's like a dead horse. If
Mhm.
people don't understand what Asatru is by now, or at least take the time to Google it, then there's no helping these people.
Yeah,
There
that's
really isn't.
that's what it really comes down to is people just not wanting to do their own research, which is a huge thing nowadays. People just see an article like that and they be like, "Oh, they're racist." That's it. End of the game. They're racist. But they won't go and look up anything about us, and they don't even know what we do. So it's like I'm not sure how they can pass judgment that way, but they do, unfortunately, especially news outlets.
Yeah.
They like to just get some
Oh
minimum
yeah.
information and just publish a story real quick just to stir some stuff up, and next thing you know, it's making us all look bad, which I just don't think they think about.
Nope.
I no, because they don't care
Yeah,
because
that's
the
true.
controversy sells.
Yeah,
And
it does. You're right.
and I mean, look at the media practices over the past 4 years on other stuff. Look how
Mm-hmm.
slanted it is. And I would not expect the media to do some honest
Reporting.
reporting on our religion, because it's like, oh, okay, well, they're not really racist. I mean, that's not going to sell. That's not going to bang up the headlines. But
Yeah.
even like a lot of people, even people who don't know a lot about Asatru, they see that in the headlines. Like people I know, they're like, man, this is getting to be pretty cringy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and people have asked me, why is the media still beating the shit out of your religion? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
um,
it's crazy.
But we have so many heathen groups out there doing good things, and
They never report on that.
No, of course not. Nope. Why would they? I mean, we wouldn't want our people of our faith to be portrayed as normal, now would we?
That'd be crazy.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so I think we should move on to the next topic of cyber heathenry, which I feel like it's gotten pretty big nowadays with all the Facebook groups and the. Yeah, we touched on it a little bit last episode when we talked about people that really just kind of like live their heathen life online, where they like to talk about it and stuff, but they don't actually do any like in life practice of heathenry, or actually go out, meet people, get into kindreds, meet tribes, and just do all the actual like heathen fun stuff, and they just like to do it online.
Yeah.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because you do have a good number of people who are like, they live in the middle of nowhere. Like, I feel bad for any heathen that lives in my hometown.
That used to be me.
In upstate New York. Because it's like, you say Asatru, people say, what?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so foreign, let alone like, I mean, I'm from a place like, you have to drive to like a mile and a half to get to your neighbor. So I could totally understand how like the only thing they might have is an online Asatru community, and they keep their practice within the confines of their property, because that's all they have. But it's like, you should be trying to connect to people. I mean, there's got to be at least one heathen at least 1 to 2 hours away. There's no reason why you guys can't link up at least once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
but
yeah. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I think creating a tribe like that's like incredibly important.
I agree. I mean, we started out as a Facebook group because I didn't really know anybody. So it's great for networking, but there's got to be a point where the networking stops, and and the actual face-to-face stuff continues. I mean, I to have an online ritual or online bloat, like that's kind of, I don't even know how I feel about that. Like, I understand live streaming it for one of your people that might be deployed,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think public live streaming a bloat, that's kind of like crossing a line, because I mean, that's supposed to be like a private, intimate time, like a spiritual time with everyone.
Right. But I'm like, like talking like maybe like an in-group kind of private stream, or put them on Skype or something. But a public thing, like, what would you get out of that? That's like watching like New Year's Eve on TV, right? It's like watching the ball drop on TV.
It's like not having a party with you. It's
right. It's like watching all the parties on TV.
Yeah.
Like, what is that doing for you? Like, do we have chat turned on, by the way? I want to know people's thoughts on this. Like, what would you get out of that?
It is on. Yep, it's on.
Cool.
Yeah, we got 3 viewers right now.
Yeah, tell us in the comments. I mean, if you're an online heathen, like, tell us. Like, I would like to know what you get out of that. What are you looking for in the long term?
I'd definitely like to know as well.
And I know online, I mean, it's pretty big to have access to as a new heathen. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel bad for when people get into like online like groups and stuff like that, and they haven't quite figured out like the landscape yet, and they get into some of the like just different groups that you just really don't want to associate with quite yet. And it's like it gets pretty rough in that way too.
Well, the thing is like with our religion and our our beliefs and stuff, you can't really experience it fully until you're with a group, like until you're with a tribe. So, like, I get the whole solitary thing. I did it for like 2 years. Like, it's no fun. You don't feel like you have people who share like a common ideology that you share. and so finding a tribe is hard, and I get the whole like living distance, but I mean, how many hours have a lot of us traveled? I've traveled 5 hours, to go to Yule. So it's like it's the sacrifice. Like you have to make it work, and then you can really feel what it's all about. And I mean, to look at the ancestors, they were all tribal. They weren't a bunch of individuals living in little wooden huts everywhere, like doing their own thing. They all came together as a community. So.
Oh, I feel you, Chaz. I've driven that 7 hours too frequently.
Oh yeah.
So.
Goodness, that drive for you for midsummer must have been a great time.
Oh man, it was awesome. Leaving a day later than I'm supposed to because I had to go to a court hearing.
Oh yeah, that must have been a fun
And then
time.
driving through weather. Oh, it was amazing. But you know what though? I do like to drive. It is a real pretty drive.
Oh, I bet,
You
definitely
see a
through the
lot of
mountains.
landscape. Just crank on some good tunes and the time just flies, Um, and now hopefully we can do some, more stuff with the Northern Virginia part of our tribe. So that actually shaves off about an hour and a half of my drive
Does it
because
really?
it does. Because like I have to drive north just to go, south to come hook around and come down the peninsula there. I have to go through Richmond if I want to. I could go across, another way, but that's like a extra hour.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I'd have to go up through Richmond and then down when we were getting together in Hampton Roads. So, Northern Virginia would actually be closer, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I think we can move on to our next topic, which is the temple currently being built in Iceland.
Oosh.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that. I'm definitely whenever it gets built, I would definitely like to plan a trip there.
Yeah.
I want to see it, but I would be more excited when we get our own.
Oh my gosh, definitely.
I want our own. Like I have been dreaming about this for since the day we actually became a thing. Like I want our own, you know, temple or hof
that
or
would
lodge,
that would
whatever
be
you want to call
fantastic.
it. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be like the ultimate veterans hangout too.
Oh yeah, you just come,
Yeah.
shoot some guns, throw some axes, drink some mead,
Yeah,
all the good
just have
stuff.
like a separate building on the property or a place, something attached to it that's like a bar,
Oh
has a
yes.
bar in there, a couple pool tables, some TVs in there with some Xbox or PlayStation, darts, just like the most awesome lounge, area,
Mm-hmm.
and have all the flags from each branch of the military, POW flag,
Mm-hmm.
get like some sort of like maybe on one of the walls, like have the names of like that are on the Vietnam memorial up on there.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be amazing. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then like, in the back, two double doors open up, you walk through them and bam, that's our temple. It's our temple in there.
That'd be
I
fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome. That's my dream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And a jacuzzi out back.
Oh, obviously you gotta have a jacuzzi.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jacuzzi, day spa, sauna, axe
All of
throwing.
all of the things that a heathen needs.
Yeah.
Yes.
But with the
That
temple being built in Iceland, I find it kind of weird that it's not getting funded. Like it was supposed to be finished in summer this year, but it ended up getting pushed back to more like I think it's like summer or fall of next year. That was the last time I checked on it, but they had funding issues, which I thought was really weird since that is now like the second biggest religion behind Christianity in Iceland.
Well, the thing is like, and I don't know like the actual statistics or the actual funding problem of Iceland, but you have a country that is literally a little over 300,000. So I'm sure the income to build something like this, and if you've read about the temple, like it's all going to be based off of like how the sun rises and sets and stuff.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be like lit up inside. Like it's going to be amazing. So like there's a lot that went into it. But I can only imagine like trying to gain funds just to build a huge building with all this extra stuff to it. Like I can kind of see where it's probably a little hard. And they just got done sending their soccer team to like the semi-finals or whatever, and so I'm sure there's a little bit of funding issues. So.
But aren't there international grants out there though?
There are. That's kind of what I thought was weird, because I thought they would tap into that. They may have not, or they may have already. I don't know.
Because like I know there's grants like cultural grants, not necessarily for like the religious side, but the religious side of our faith, faith ties into culture. I would think that there would be grants out there for them.
Mm-hmm.
People who will donate to anybody worldwide.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it finished. I would like to go see it.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Just, if anything, just to get some architectural ideas.
Yeah, we'll make sure we grab the blueprints when we go.
We'll steal them.
Yeah. Have you actually seen the designs
We'll
for it? It looks fantastic, like the building.
Yeah, I saw it. It's
like the
beautiful.
concepts. Oh yes, I'm absolutely thrilled for that to be finished.
How much is it? How much do they say it's going to cost to complete?
I haven't seen how much. I haven't seen how much it's going to cost. I assume a lot.
Yeah, the only thing I can see that they mention is the architect who's building it, and then like a drawing, like a 3D drawing of the building itself.
I've seen the 3D
That's all
drawing.
they really put out
Great.
about it. Yeah, it looks amazing.
Alrighty.
I'm sure, like when it's finished, they'll have like a virtual tour or something for everybody to look at.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Is there a website for it?
I don't know. I've seen the news articles on it, but I'll look for a website real quick while we move on to the next topic, and I'll come back to it if I find one.
I just think there's a bunch of articles on it. I don't think there's an actual website. There might be if you go like Iceland.gov and then like try and I don't know, see if there's like a religion section or something. I don't know.
Alrighty, so I think that can bring us into our next topic of starting out in heathenry, like the beginnings of heathenry, and how to make that transition smoother.
By the way, guys, if you hear me breathing in the mic really heavy, I have like bronchitis, so I'm trying not to.
Trying not to die.
No, I'm trying not to die. I'm like on my earbuds here, and I'm in a closet, so I don't have a lot of room to freaking work with. It's late night, and I don't want to wake the kids up, so I'm in a closet, breathing like Darth Vader.
I can just see you with like this tiny desk in the closet, like one of those little food trays. Just sitting there with your food tray and your mic.
They let me out when I'm good.
Harry Potter.
I'm in here with Tom Cruise.
Oh goodness.
Oh my
God. One of the best South Park episodes ever. But yeah, new to heathenry. Oh, wow, that is a good topic. It's a big topic.
Yeah,
that is. There's a lot that goes into that, definitely.
Well, absolutely. One of the main things that I have seen, it's like the newcomers are kind of. So I have presence in various groups. Some of them on my real Facebook account, some of them on my fake Facebook accounts. Just to kind of stick my eyeballs out there and see what's out there. But it seems like, with this resurgence of wanting to find a European ancestral faith, in European ancestry, you got a lot of people that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what books to read. They don't know, where to go, who to talk to. And then you find them like asking these questions in these groups, and they're the same questions that have been asked like 50 million times. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like you get these people that are more seasoned in the community, and it's like they're just not being very helpful, if not just kind of treating them like they're plebs,
Yeah, I hate when people
and
do
that's
that.
not cool. And that's not cool, I encourage people to not just read, but go meet the heathen community. Go to pub moots.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find a community or a group that's going to mesh with you. You know,
Yeah.
and if your gut it doesn't feel right, it's not right for you. The group doesn't
Yeah.
feel right, it's not for you. Ask them what their values are. Not just within heathenry, but outside of heathenry.
Yeah.
And if they
Yeah.
and if it seems like a good fit, get to know them better. um but at the same time, just don't take anybody's word as gospel, as this is what true is. You do have to explore it. You have to research it
Yeah.
yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
The
I
Go ahead.
definitely found like when I was looking around, you got to take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt. Like, even when you read books and everything, you just really you want to take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt and just kind of piece together what you learn as you go along. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Yeah. How I would tell somebody is like literally like just take your time, but don't waste too much time. Like so, like
Mm-hmm.
when you first started out, like it took me 2 years, before I found a group, and
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to come in and I read books and I did my own. I already had my own foundation. You got to
Yeah.
build your foundation, which is your personality, with the religion. So like how you see the world and how you view the world. Then you put the religion goggles on. How do you see the world? How do you view the world? And then you find a group. Because if you just become a heathen, and then go join the first group that you find, and they're the complete opposite of who you are. For one, you're not going to fit in, and two,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to enjoy being there, and you're
That's
not
very
going to
true.
enjoy the religion itself. So you got to take your time. Don't waste time, because if you wait 5-7 years, then you're just one of those dudes that just says, "Oh, happy Thor's Day," on Facebook, and that's all you do. Like, and you don't want to get to that point. Do your couple years of whenever you're comfortable. Yeah, go out and meet people while you're doing it. Like you want to
Mm-hmm.
see what other people are thinking, but you want to build your foundation that sets you up for success in the heathen world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean
and
that's.
don't get discouraged by the first negative experience you have either, because I mean, as any
Absolutely.
growing faith, there's going to be your good, there's going to be your bad, and unfortunately sometimes you run into the bad before you run into the good ones. Like, don't let one bad experience just dishearten you. You just
Mm-hmm.
got to chalk it up as a learning experience.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I did what Chaz did basically. I started out, got the calling, started looking around a little bit, read some books, and kind of got my own view and everything. And then I started looking for groups, and that really helped me figure out which groups were like, really about being heathen, and other ones that were just kind of, just kind of there, just to really,
Yeah.
kind of get in the
Another
way.
another piece of another piece of advice I'd give somebody is like a lot of people, they spend too much time just studying
Mm-hmm.
the only books we have. Like they study the Eddas and then they study the Hovel, and that's it. And then like they'll buy a book here and there with someone else's opinion on something else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a good piece of advice, if for any history buffs out there, you got to go out and you got to learn the people who actually worshiped the gods
Mm-hmm.
in the prime. So like you understand how the people functioned in the tribal community, then you learn more about how the religion functioned in society than just what books say. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So like go out there and learn about, the different tribes and that were in ancient Germany, or read stuff about the Scandinavia, ancient Scandinavia. Read stuff about the stuff and learn the people and learn their thought process. And I guarantee it's not what you've been taught. I guarantee what you discover is something truly different.
Also, don't be shy about doing your research on some of these authors out there. Um, you know, somebody writes a book, for example, and they're like, okay, well, it seems like a really good book. I mean, should I take what they have to say as, something to follow? Do your research on that person. If the person's like, known to be like a charlatan or has questionable reputation or is a raging alcoholic that beats their wife, for example, like, I mean, you kind of have to consider some of the sources that are out there, because as many new people are popping up in the heathen community, a lot of new writers are popping up too.
Mm-hmm.
you so you have to not just do your research on stuff that Chad said, but like look at who's writing some of the books out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I'd like to point out too that when you're reading heathen books, I would definitely pay attention and look for like if the author's also into Wiccan, because I find like a lot of heathen books have these Wiccan influences kind of put into them, and that's why I started taking a lot of things with a grain of salt, because I like to be able to like sort out through the books and really like compare to other books and figure out like basically what's going on in the book and like figure out what mindset these people are in as well. It really helps.
Yeah.
Also what groups they might belong to
Yes,
and what
definitely.
that group stands for.
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to add too, what about like publishers and stuff like that? Like when you go and you read a book, like for me, like when I look at books, I look for, and I'm just throwing a name out there, might tag him in it later, but Dr. Jackson Crawford
Hmm.
writes very non-biased mythology, and he wrote his own poetic Edda, and he wrote his own version of the Volsungs and the story of Ragnar Lothbrok and stuff like that. But he is not also true. But he teaches it at a university level. So like he has a non-bias. So what I'm trying to get at is you'll read some books and you'll read two books that say the exact same things with a bias. So like you got to be careful, and you got to take what you want from the book and form it into what you want for your own experience, and then read another book for it. Because this is what's beautiful about this. Like what a lot of people don't understand is like there might have been two tribes back way long time ago right next to each other, but did things completely different.
Yeah.
Like so, you know what I'm saying? So like there's no right or wrong answer to how any of this works. It's how it fits you and
Yeah.
how you discover the path, and it's a beautiful path. So like just please just start walking, and you'll start discovering not only who you are, your ancestors, who they were, but your gods. So
I love Dr. Jason Crawford as well. He's is it Jackson Crawford or Jason? I forgot his first name.
Jackson.
Jackson, you're right. Yeah, but I love Dr. Jackson, but I love his how he approaches it historically on a lot of things. Like I find that really awesome, and he also has YouTube videos for anyone out there that wants to research that. He has very informative YouTube videos that go into really good historic background on things. So those are definitely a great source of information. And
over 250 videos.
Yeah. Oh yes, he has some good, like a ton of knowledge on there. Please go check that out. And you guys got any books or other authors to recommend? Books, YouTube channels.
I do have a book that I recommend. Let me get it real quick. It's a Havamal. So it's called The Study Havamal. And it literally it was published, I don't know much about these guys, but it was published by Hugin and Moonin Publishing. But when you read through it, that gives you, so like on one side of the page, you'll have 3 to 4 so you'll have the Old Norse translation of the Havamal, and then you'll have the 3 most popular English translations of the Havamal underneath of it. And then on the other page, right adjacent to it, you'll have a notes page to where you can write down your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's pretty crazy, like how something in one language, Old Norse, and then you have 3 different authors that translate it, have 3 different, almost completely different meanings to the same verse. Mm-hmm. And you could read almost all 3. So that's what I was talking to you about about bias. When you start reading a publisher's work, be careful. But I think what's beautiful about this is that you can kind of get 3 different perspectives over one verse of the Havamal, and then you can write down what you think of it. So it's called the Study Havamal. I don't even know who wrote it. It doesn't mention someone who put it together. All it has is it was written by Hugen and Moonen Publishing, but I found it very informative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually I have to suggest a Havamal as well. I have a pocket Havamal, and you can go on Amazon and type in pocket Havamal, and it'll be the first one that pops up. It's by Samud Sigfusson and Carrie Overton. I found that translation to be really good, and it was pretty easy to digest as well. And I think the first book I got to really get into Asatru is Essential Asatru: Walking the Path of Norse Paganism by Diana L. Paxson. Her stuff was pretty good, and I enjoyed that book pretty good. It guides you from everything to altars to what the gods like, and a ton of other things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the publisher of the Havamal that I have is the same as yours, actually, Heathen and Muna Publishing.
Okay.
Which is pretty funny.
Yep.
Alrighty. Let's see. What other topics do we have to discuss? We have modern heathen music. Let's definitely touch on that since we just went over beginning of heathenry or starting heathen path.
Okay, give me like 2 minutes because I have a crap ton.
Oh boy. Alrighty. So obviously, everyone knows in the heathen community you got Wardunna, but we're here to tell you there's a few more bands. When I say that, I mean there's a lot of groups, especially now coming out, that are making so much good heathen music. So if you want to go ahead and open up your playlist and get ready to start putting down some songs, I think Chaz is going to fire it up here in a second. But I'd also have to suggest, oh goodness, what is the name of this group? Hey baby, what is the name of the group? Never mind, I remember it. Danheim. Danheim makes some really good music.
Yeah.
I love Danheim. They have really good mixes.
What's cool about Danheim is that you can get on YouTube and type them in, and they have a 24-hour
live channel. Yeah, I love that.
They play like Danheim radio.
Oh,
they don't just play their music; they also play other music, so that way you get introduced to all kinds of bands. So, yeah. So I don't know if I can try and play some music. I don't know how well it's going to come through.
If you just want to like tell us, and you can send me the links later. I can just I can link everything in the chat so everyone can get it.
So we all know Wardruna. I'm sure everyone has watched a damn episode of Vikings, so don't even lie to yourself.
Yeah, don't lie to us.
Yeah, don't lie. I watch it. Crap. I mean, I know it's fake and it's not even remotely closely accurate, but it's the only thing I got on TV. So. Yeah, I'm not watching The Last Kingdom. Yeah, that's garbage. So I'll watch Vikings. So anyway, yeah, you got Heilung. Heilung is, I don't know if it's German or old German, but it means healing. Heilung is an amazing band.
Oh
Just type them in. They've only had one album. Yeah, they've only had one album, but they did a live show and it is absolutely phenomenal. My daughter goes insane because the woman comes out and she has like the deer antlers and she's tapping the bones, and my daughter gets all kinds of hyped up over it. But they do, it's more of a darker feel.
Yeah,
I don't know
they
if
do.
any metalhead listening. Yeah,
They do a lot of like
you have
Germanic
them.
tribe music.
Yeah, they do. They actually, like, if you type in their not their website, but their first album or whatever, and you look up like the different languages that they speak, every song is a different ancient European language. So like, you're not just getting Old Norse and Old Germanic or German, and so it's Old English, but they have a lot of different things. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then you have Garmarna, and they did the one of the famous songs, "Her Manling," and I mean, you just type in like Viking music or Nordic music on YouTube, and it's like one of the first music videos. I think the music video is Gerard Butler playing in Beowulf in the early 2000s. Um, yeah, then we already talked about Anaheim. You have, hold on one second. I'm still pulling up some more. There's a lot of music. A lot of people just thought there was like one or two bands, but there's plenty of bands. that's some real metal. That's some power metal. But
Amon Amarth,
yeah,
Tyr.
yeah, for your more metal based. Oh man, hold on.
Oh
Anyway,
gosh.
sorry. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Anyway, stupid computer. So you have then there's a band I just found out called Knitland. So it's NYTT Land. And they actually run some very, like, they use a lot of the old instruments and stuff like that, and a lot of their albums, like they have an album called the Havamol, and then they have an album called the Voluspa and stuff like that. So like you can listen to the music, and from what I can see is they try and like keep to the poem. So like you're almost learning not only a language, but you're also learning the poem itself in that language.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. You have, what is it, Forndorn or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, my computer is very slow right now. But yeah, you have a lot of metal bands too, and Amon Amarth is probably the most famous, like what they call Viking metal or whatever. You have Tyr, you have Wolfgar. They only came out with a few albums, but they are on point. If you want to look those up. What else you got? You also got Enslaved, another Viking metal band that you can look up.
I've heard them quite a few times. They're good.
Yeah, they're amazing.
I'd like to point out Hingling. They actually think that live performance was at Midgard's Blot, which I actually recently found out about a while back, and it's like the biggest like Viking history themed like festival, and it's like this huge metal festival where all these types of bands get together, and I honestly really want to go to that now that I've saw it a while back, and I've just been like dying to go to that. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah, no. What's cool about it is they with a location in which that they hold Midgard's Bloat. Midgard's Bloat is held like beside Viking burial mounds, or
Yeah.
I hate using Viking. So I hate using Viking so much because I know what the actual term means, but it's just I use it just so that everyone understands what's going on.
Yeah, that's
But
pretty
anyway,
much
so
it.
they use yeah. So I forget if it's between two burial mounds or if it's just beside one. But they do some big like crazy ritual, and there's a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
bands that come out, and it's like a whole weekend event. And you can look up stuff on YouTube. There's like a Viking
Yeah,
longhouse there that you can go inside and
it
they
looks
do stuff. And
fantastic.
yeah,
Isn't it Norway?
paleo. It's in Norway. Yeah, I can look
Mm-hmm.
up the. They do it in August.
Mm-hmm.
Every August. Yeah, and it's an amazing event. I
Yeah.
haven't went yet, but I plan on going very soon.
Yeah, I would definitely like to catch it next year if possible. That would be a fantastic trip.
It'd be crazy.
Oh, yes.
Talk.
Alrighty,
It'd
well.
be like crazy if we went as a group.
Oh yeah, we'll have to fire up the GoFundMe for a field trip.
Oh my god. We'll pimp out Chaz. Just kidding.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll make Chaz do a bikini car wash.
We can do a Legacy of Tier sexy man calendar, and we'll just have a picture of all of us for each month, and I'm sure those will sell like hotcakes.
I'm excluded from the sexy man calendar. I'm gonna protest.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
Lord.
All right, we've hit around the hour mark, so you guys ready to start wrapping it up?
Yes. Make sure you guys visit www.legacyoftier.com. That will take you, lead you to our Facebook group, our other online social media, and also it'll take you to our GoFundMe. And we are trying to raise funds to file for our 501c3.
Mm-hmm.
Any donation is appreciated. If you can't donate, that's great. If you could at least share the link, that helps, get the word out. We're trying to build a not just a community, but a brotherhood for veterans and military heathens to do stuff for, the warfighter community. So we appreciate anything that you could do for us. And thank you for those who've already donated and taken the time to spread the word.
Mm-hmm. And I have all those links in the description. So if you would like to go down there and check those out, they're there. And I'll be linking the music down there as well that me and Chaz have mentioned.
Yes, and if you have an idea for a show, please mention it in the comments. We're always looking for show ideas.
If you have anyone that you'd like to be on the podcast as well, like any big heathen personalities, definitely send us suggestions. Email them as well. And if we get enough people emailing someone, we can get someone on the podcast. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
Definitely be looking for guests. Alrighty, think that about does it. Chaz, you got anything to input right here at the end?
Nope, I'm good.
Alrighty.
Good talking to everyone.
Hey, good talking to everyone too. Alrighty, everyone have a good night.
Yep, see you next week.
See you next week.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.